trivia here. Hans Peter Wilfer, the owner of Warwick, his dad, his name was Fred Wilfer. He started Framus. So he's the son of Framus, the Framus company. So he grew up as a little boy in the Framus factory, running around in the factory, and when he was old enough to do something, to do any kind of work, he was working, making instruments from as far back as he can remember. He was in the factory working. So his whole entire life, that's all he knows is instrument making. So in the 82, when he decided he wanted to start his own company, he started a bass company. And thank God he decided he wanted to start a bass company. You know, what an interesting thing that the guy says, well, I want to start making instruments. I think I'll make basses. You know, that's so lucky for us all, you know, because the Warwick basses have become very iconic instruments, you know. This one here, the thumb bass, is a very famous instrument. We'll play it in a little while, and I'll show you why, and give you a little tour of that one. Right now, I've got the star bass here. This one is the one I've been digging a lot lately. This one gets this really cool old vintage kind of tone to it. It's a natural tone. Instruments nowadays tend to have active electronics on them, which means they have a built-in equalizer, an electronic equalizer built into the bass. Not so much with guitars, very seldomly with guitars, but with basses, it's very common to have a preamp built into the actual guitar. Well, these older version basses have the completely passive electronics. And the tone, and in my opinion, has this very nice, warm, rich, natural-sounding old-school tone. And I'm drawn to old-school music. I told you from 82 to 89 I was into hard rock and metal. Well, then something changed in me, and I started getting into soul music, rhythm and blues, funk, R&B, and old rock and roll. And I started to get what they call an old soul. You know, I started to get into Detroit music, Motown, Memphis music, Stax recordings, Muscle Shoals recordings. I started to really get into American soul music from the 60s, from the 50s, 60s, and 70s. And that's kind of where I found what I love the most, you know, the music that speaks to me the most is that soul music. Well, when I got this bass that I'm holding right now, this Warwick Star bass, I picked it up, and the first time I played it, well, it wasn't this one. I tried one that was like it at the NAMM show, and I was like, wow, that thing really speaks to me. It really has this cool old school tone. I must have one. And I got one, and here it is. But I just love playing this thing, and it really gives me that old school tone that I'm after. Now, when I started getting into this soul music, I realized that it has a different feel and a different approach to the hard rock and the metal, you know. It's different. It's soulful. It comes from a different place, comes from a different ethnic background, and it's older. And I started listening to a lot of that music, and I began to kind of absorb it and soak it up. And then I began to change my style. I began to create my own style of playing. And what I did was I combined my hard rock attitude and my driving kind of stuff that I learned from my early influences, and then I applied it to this soulful bluesy thing. And over the years, I kind of created my own way of playing. And that's, to me, I think is the coolest thing in anyone's musical journey, is to kind of create a style that you could call your own. And so my style is kind of, I call it the grease, you know, and I like everything to be greasy. I'm going to show you what I mean when I say greasy. Slippery, you know, I like slipping and sliding around, and it's kind of like, it sounds like this. See what I'm doing there? Putting the grease on. I like putting the grease on just about everything. It's almost like as if I was playing a cello or a string bass or a violin or something, you know, or something with no frets on it, and you get up where the fret and get on and behind it, and then go a little in front of it and give it a little shake, as opposed to, I mean, naturally you do that when the music calls for notes like that. You know, you play them straight, of course. But if I get the chance, I like to play like. You know, that's my style. Without the grease. And with the grease. So you hear the difference between grease and no grease? Well, that's kind of how I like to play it. And